there, my name is Porsha Lauri. Welcome to or welcome back to my YouTube channel. Today I'm going to be reviving a series on my channel that definitely could use a new installment. I'm going to be bringing to you another What Did We Learn? A series where I used to look at childhood, growing up, coming of age stories and try to discern what exactly the moral is that they were trying to teach us. So I decided to bring back this series because everyone in my life cannot seem to shut the hell up about this little TV show on Netflix called Cobra Kai. Cobra Kai is an extension of the Karate Kids movie series where we re-meet Johnny Lawrence and whatever the Karate Kid's name was. Whatever, you know what his name was.
When I watch the Karate Kid, I root for the Karate Kid, Johnny Lawrence from the Cobra Kai dojo. Get your head out of your ass, Lily.
And everyone I know has been absolutely obsessed with watching this show. Now, I remember when this show came out, which was actually in 2018 on YouTube. It was a YouTube Red show. And I remember a little bit of buzz here and there about it, but it was really once that show got picked up by Netflix that it started to really catch fire, which makes sense because a hell of a lot more people have Netflix as opposed to YouTube Red. Now, since everyone's been talking about it, you would think that maybe I would give it a try, but honestly, I could care less about Cobra Kai. I'm sorry. I don't really care about the Karate Kid. But you know what installment of the Karate Kid did impress me? The next Karate Kid, which is the movie we're talking about today. I'm talking about Hilary, Swank, and Mr. Miyagi getting their karate on. If you enjoy listening to my opinions about all things TV, movies, music, whatever, do me a solid and drop a like on this video, then run over to that subscribe button and hit the bell next to it so you can be notified every time I upload. I think that's enough of an intro. Let's just go ahead and talk about The Next Karate Kid. Okay, so a little bit of a brief synopsis of The Next Karate Kid. And by the way, there are spoilers ahead. Louisa Pierce is at her wit's end with her niece Julie, an angry, suddenly orphaned teenager after a random car accident that included both her parents, and is at a loss for how to gain control of the situation. After catching up with an old friend, Mr. Miyagi, and hearing her story, he offers up his LA home and to stay and babysit Julie for a bit. Mr. Miyagi and Julie have a tense relationship at first, but a superhuman jump onto a car that nearly kills Julie allows them to finally find a bond: karate. Julie finds her zen, a cool older boyfriend, and a new mentor. That is basically the synopsis of The Next Karate Kid, but honestly, I feel like that doesn't even touch the surface of what the movie's really like, so let's really break it down. So when the movie first starts, we open on and Julie's aunt meets up with Mr. Miyagi, who of course served with her late husband. And she's kind of, telling him about what's been going on in her life. And she's really just worn out trying to deal with her basic new teenage daughter that just moved in due to this freak car accident that killed both of her parents. Which this is a thing they keep bringing up over and over in the movie, which is the fact that she just lost her parents. And she talks a little bit about her dad, but she doesn't really spend any time talking about how her parents died, how it's really affecting her. We just kind of keep gracing over it, which seems kind of silly because that's such a major traumatic thing. Anyway, Mr. Miyagi comes up with the idea that Julie's aunt should go stay at his LA pad and hang out, kick it, relax, have some wine, and he'll stay behind and hang out with Julie. I don't know how they would make this exact movie today, because the idea of a grown-ass man babysitting a 15 or 16-year-old girl seems a little bit weird, but I mean, you have to remember this is the 90s, and so it's totally fine and not weird. But I wonder if they could recreate this movie, how they would get Mr. Miyagi and Julie alone without it feeling creepy. So during this time as well, we also get a chance to kind of watch Julie as she's living her life up to this point. We see that she's been sneaking out at night, and so we assume that she's going to party and she's doing things she's not supposed to do, when in actuality she's just a freaking saint and she's going up to the schools I don't know what it is on the roof. A garden, a roof garden? Do lots of schools have roof gardens? I've never heard of this. She's using that location to care for this hawk that she found who had a broken wing and it was looking like it could have died, and so she's trying to nurse this hawk back to health. But it makes sense because if you look at it in comparison to what she's going through, she just lost both of her parents and she's feeling very alone, and the hawk kind of serves this purpose for her. Like, she has something that she has to do. She has to make sure that this hawk, you know, lives. Mr. Miyagi and Julie's aunt and Julie all go to the airport. Julie's aunt leaves. She says she loves her, and Julie just won't even respond to her, which, like, again, kind of annoying, like, teenager behavior, but also she just lost both of her parents, so I'm giving her a whole lot of passes in this movie. So her and Mr. Miyagi head back home, and you can just tell it's like, it's gonna be awkward for the next couple of weeks. So Julie goes to this seemingly regular ass high school, and there's this guy that keeps bothering her at school. His name's Ned, and he's part of this like on-campus security fraternity. Does that sentence sound as weird as I think it does? So if we look at the school, there's these security guards that kind of keep the kids in line, I don't know, who all hang out and wear like matching tight-ass black t-shirts and just like run around being menacing in the school. It's ran by this guy named Dugan, who already that name alone should strike fear into your heart. You just know that he's up to no good. Like, look at his eyes, okay? They're terrifying. Anyway, he has the hots for Julie, and he makes it known at every single possible moment. He says something or like grabs at her. He's basically like, go out with me or I'll get you in trouble about your hook. I just don't understand where all of this testosterone and anger is coming from. But anyway, she has to deal with this weird guy. Julie is being harassed by this Ned guy when all of a sudden this other guy named Eric, who is a like new recruit for the security guard fraternity, and Eric starts to learn more and more about Julie. Like, he learns about the hawk and how she's been sneaking into the school to help it, and how Ned knows. They kind of just form this bond eventually. I also want to point out though that just like Ned, Eric is clearly 45. Most of the movies I've watched on my channel that deal with high school, everyone in them is nowhere near high school anymore, and there's nothing like wrong with that. But the thing is, it's got to be a little believable, and I just don't think either of these dudes look like they belong in any high school. Eric goes as far as quitting this security fraternity thing in order to stand up for her. But of course, Ned can't just let it go, so he ends up reporting Julie's late night break-ins into the school to care for this hawk, and that ends up getting her suspended. So after Julie gets suspended, Mr. Miyagi decides to take them out of town for a little while. And right before this, I want to add is that Julie is having this big fight with Mr. Miyagi, and she runs out of the house, and she's almost hit by a car. Like, a pizza delivery kid is like driving down the road, and all of a sudden she jumps on top of the hood, and Mr. Miyagi's like, where'd you learn how to do that? And she kind of just innocently says, oh, I did like a little karate growing up with my dad. And so this, of course, sparks Mr. Miyagi's interest, and he's like, okay, I know what we're doing for your suspension. My favorite part is before she goes out of town to go to the monastery, she has to go and ask Eric to keep an eye on her hawk while she's gone. And we get this lovely scene of Eric literally nonchalantly just walking across a moving train and not dying somehow. The 90s was such a weird time for stunts. Like, we just let actors go out there and we were like, hey, like, if you break your head open, like, it's on you, bro. So we get this scene of Julie asking Eric to please watch the hawk while she's gone, and he won't watch it unless she admits that she's gonna miss him. It's very cute. When I was like 7 years old watching this movie, I was like, this is romance, okay, people? Now we fast forward, and Julie and Mr. Miyagi have arrived at the monastery. And I actually love this sequence in the movie. Her training and finding her zen, refinding her love and passion for karate, her and Mr. Miyagi building this bond, her and the monks building a bunch, her learning from them and how they live their life. I know that this can get really, like, I guess, tongue-in-cheek. It can be very cheesy portrayal of this, but I honestly just loved it. I felt like this part was when she really connected with herself again. No one seemed to really try to connect like her emotions and to talk to her about what she might be going through and how she's feeling. And I feel that even though we didn't get those kind of in-depth conversations, through the art of karate and meditation and faith, I believe that we kind of show that progression from her being really lost and probably confused as to like what her life is going to be now that it's been altered so heavily, to she's more grounded in who she is. And that's the important part. I really enjoy the monastery piece. The last piece of that montage I just want to talk about is when Julie's practicing her karate moves and she puts on the cranberries, which like, oh, classic 90s. This makes a movie feel like the 90s. And then the monks come in and she's like, oh, I'm sorry. She's like worried that she's like interrupted because it's, you know, it's very, very quiet at the monastery. And she's worried that she's like disrupted the peace. When in actuality, all of the monks come in and they start to dance. And that's like something she learned. She's like, yeah, they have this very serious, intense relationship with their faith, but that doesn't mean that they stop having fun. And I think that's like something the movie also wants to showcase, is this balance. It's also cute because Julie ends up spending her birthday with the monks. They end up surprising her with a cake, and her one wish is that they will come and visit her in Boston, that they will leave the monastery just for a little while so she can show them around her city. And I just think that's just, it's just so wholesome and sweet, and it makes me feel good. It's like, this is the part of the movie where you're like, things are gonna get better, guys. Guys, things are gonna get better. Everything's gonna be good. Let's go back home. Let's go back home. So they go back home. Julie is like a new woman. She shows up at school saying all of these really weird, cryptic monk-isms. Eric's like, who are you? But also, I'm even more attracted to you than I was before. And he ends up asking her to the senior prom. We get another cute montage of more Julie and Mr. Miyagi. He surprises her by showing her how to waltz while also doing karate. So we get that cute scene once they're at prom of her doing the karate. Oh, and along with teaching her how to waltz, Mr. Miyagi also went out and bought her a dress for the prom. So fast forward, and it is prom night, and Eric is coming to pick up Julie, and the monks have been hanging out in Boston with Mr. Miyagi and the lot. I love the scene when Eric comes to the door and the monks answer the door and then they invite him inside. He talks to Mr. Miyagi, and Mr. Miyagi literally is sharpening a knife and giving him just the classic dad grilling moment that you need before any kind of high school dance scene. So then Julie and Eric take off to go to the prom. Eric almost kills her in the car ride to the prom because she's so pretty. We get to the prom, we get our little half karate, half slow dance scene, which is very sweet. All of a sudden, the security frat guys descend from the ceiling at prom and bungee jump into the crowd. Why did they do this? Was this just a stunt just to say, look what we did at the prom? Was there some kind of like security issue that required them to prepare and then bungee jump to descend upon the assailants? Surprisingly, one of them gets injured doing this because obviously they were. And like basically breaks his arm and almost breaks his goddamn neck. Julie and Eric leave the prom and they're like, what the hell was that? That was so bizarre. They get into Eric's car, they head home, and they're finally having that like good night scene. And you're like, oh my God, they're totally gonna kiss. In comes Ned on his douchebag wagon. Did he follow them from prom, by the way, or did he already know where Julie lived? Because that's a whole nother topic. He gets out of his car with a bat. He proceeds to bash in Eric's windows from his car, all except for Julie's sides, which like, dude, this guy has some muscle because like windows don't just explode the way that they do. I know that it's sugar glass and this is a movie, but hang with me for a second. He would really have to was he doing the juice? He's just so angry, I guess. It's just all the anger of this guy getting Julie over him. So Ned smashes all those windows and then he tells Eric, meet me at the docks if you want to talk about it, essentially. And he drives off. Julie does my favorite thing that no teenager does in any teen-related movies or TV shows today. She goes to an adult. So Eric heads to the docks where Ned is obviously waiting for him. They have their little battle of the best comebacks. Ned's like, let's just do this. Like, basically, let's have a duel because you got the lady that I wanted to date. They just want to beat each other up. I don't know. They're boys of the 90s, and that's what boys of the 90s want to do. And of course, Eric has not really thought this fully through because Ned never seems to be truly alone. He always has his gaggle of dude friends behind him. And sure enough, the entire security frat boy squad is already there. So then all of the frat boys just start beating the absolute daylight out of Eric. Eric is literally getting his ass served to him on a platter. Dugan is also there to witness all of this, and also adding the lovely and memorable line, "Finish him." When he said finish him, we were like, does he mean like murder him? Or what is he trying to say here? I'm pretty sure that he was instructing his kids to kill this child. Like, what's happening here? Who is this guy? Luckily though for Eric, in the nick of time, Mr. Miyagi and Julie also show up to the pier. Which, is there only one pier in this town, and that's how like they all end up at the same one? So Mr. Miyagi and Julie show up, they walk up to the crew, and Julie like immediately grabs Eric and they're gonna start heading towards the car. When Dugan's like, "We're not finished here." To which I'm like, we're not finished with what? What is your problem with Julie? I don't understand why everyone has a problem with her. Like, yeah, she was sneaking in, taking care of the hawk, but like after she got back from the monastery, we let that shit go. Like, everything's fine now. Like, she's not gonna be breaking and entering anymore. She found her zen. Like, what is your problem? Then Julie turns to Mr. Miyagi and she's like, "Please just let me fight him, okay? Like, I could do this. Just let me make them be quiet, okay? I got this." And Mr. Miyagi's like, "We don't fight unless we absolutely have to." Some dude says something that is just beyond rude, and Mr. Miyagi essentially turns to Julie and he's like, "Yeah, okay, fine, do it." Julie and Ned have this extremely well choreographed and like really sick fight. Julie really shows off all of her fancy moves. Of course, Dugan's kids fight unfair because like, why wouldn't they? At one point, Ned turns around, he's able to grab some like dirty water that, you know, has like probably like rocks and sand and stuff in it, and he throws it at Julie. And then Ned tries to kick her and she's like, "I got this shit." Finally, someone kicks this guy's ass and she's like, "Kick rocks, my dude." And they start heading back and Dugan's like, "It's not over until we finish things." But not to worry, because Mr. Miyagi is an OG. And with a literal like 1-2, the fight is over and Dugan's dead. Like, not literally dead, but like essentially he's dead. All of the guys come over him. They're like, "Dude, I thought you knew everything." And they're like, "Dude, you don't know anything at all." And they all walk away from him. So then Mr. Miyagi, Eric, and Julie leave the pier and we get our final song, just the ultimate, just perfection song. So now that I've broken down the movie for you, I'm gonna go over what I think the moral of the story was. So the ultimate moral of the story, what I took away from it, at least as a youthful child and now as an adult, is this idea of having faith in yourself, having faith in those around you, having faith in nature. Yeah, that's pretty much it. I mean, I don't think that there's too many super deep stories in this movie. I think it's pretty straightforward. Here's a few of my opinions about the movie. I already kind of touched on this, but like the amount of 40-year-old dudes playing high school students is just really obnoxious. Every time I think of like 90s movies, I think of the infamous like montage. And I just love like a good montage. Like, I just love a good quick filler of like, hey, here's how their relationship developed, and so we can fast forward to get to the next important scene. This movie only further shows me that Hilary Swank is the baddest of the baddest bitches. Go on to star in $1 Million Baby, which was also another movie about a female athlete, although that one is actually based on a real story, and she ended up winning an Oscar for that. I just think Hilary Swank is like the coolest chick ever. Rest in peace to Mr. Miyagi. Pat Morita. I'll flash his name right here, but he played Mr. Miyagi in all the original Karate Kid movies, and this was his last appearance as Mr. Miyagi. I also know him from a little show you might know if you dug like old TV shows or like watched Nick at Night like I did as a kid. It's the original owner of the diner that they go to in Happy Days all the time. I forget what, Arnold's, something like that. And lastly, I do kind of want to just address this like one scene that I'm like, okay, I don't know if this really aged well. It's definitely questionable, but there is a scene where Mr. Miyagi takes all the monks bowling when they're in Boston, and they're bowling next to this guy, and there's definitely a little bit of racial tension. So lastly, I just wanted to bring up the fact that like this whole video idea came from the fact that everyone I know and their mother is watching Cobra Kai and absolutely obsessed with it. And my last words are just that if they don't get Hilary Swank / Julie Pearson to appear in Cobra Kai, I'm not watching the show. Heard it here first, folks. The opinion everybody's been waiting for about Cobra Kai. But it has been rumored. The creators of Cobra Kai did say that anything that Mr. Miyagi was a part of, like the original Mr. Miyagi, is canon, and therefore Hilary Swank could show up in Cobra Kai. Now, there are tons and tons of rumors that she's going to be in the next season, which would be season 4, but no full confirmation from either party has happened yet. I don't know if they've started pre-production on season 4 yet, so we'll kind of wait to see, but do expect that if Hilary Swank is going to be a part of season 4, then I will definitely be back here to talk about that season 4 Cobra Kai with you guys, I guess. I still remain completely neutral on this topic. I don't care about Cobra Kai. Well, that's all I have for you guys today. I hope you enjoyed watching me talk all things The Next Karate Kid. If you enjoyed this video, please do me a solid and drop a like on it. And if you enjoy watching my channel and you like listening to all my pop culture opinions, do me a solid and hit that subscribe button and hit the bell next to it so you'll be notified every time I upload. I have quite a few things coming up. I hit writer's block for like a good solid 3 weeks, but now I'm really back into the swing of things again, so hopefully you'll be seeing lots of new stuff on my channel. Get in those comments, let me know, what do you think of The Next Karate Kid? What's your favorite Karate Kid installment? And what other movies or TV shows should I cover in this series of What Did We Learn? I really want to get this series moving again because it's one of my favorite ones to film. All right, that's all I got for you, so I'll catch you guys next time. Bye!